Hello, and a very warm welcome to this quiet corner of the world. Thank you for joining me here, in a space designed to be a gentle haven for your mind. This story has been created as a soft and soothing lullaby, a quiet friend to help you release the day and drift easily into a deep and peaceful sleep. If you find comfort in our time together, a simple like, a subscription, or a kind comment helps others who may be seeking this same tranquility. Tonight, we will be visiting the Grove of Perpetual Green, an ancient forest where the very ground remembers every rain that has ever fallen. You will feel the cool, soft moss underfoot, smell the clean scent of the air after a gentle shower, and experience the profound stillness of a world in perfect harmony. Prepare to be enchanted by a place where time slows down, allowing you to find a deep and restorative calm in the gentle memories of the rain. Chapter 1. The Path of Soft Footfalls. The world began to quiet itself one small step at a time. The trail Finian had been following, a simple track of packed earth and scattered leaves, had begun to change in a way that was almost too subtle to notice at first. The ground grew softer, more yielding, and the sound of Finian's footsteps, once a steady and rhythmic crunch, became a muted, hushing press. With each pace forward, the sounds of the outer world seemed to recede, as if a thick, soft curtain were being drawn behind them. The air, too, was transforming, losing its dry, sunlit warmth and taking on a cool, damp stillness that felt ancient and deeply comforting. It carried the rich, clean scent of deep earth and things that had been growing in peaceful shade for a very long time. Ahead, the trees grew closer together, their immense trunks like the pillars of some great, quiet hall. They were Heartwood trees, their bark a dark, smooth texture that seemed to drink in the light, their high, heavy branches knitted together into a dense canopy far above, a living ceiling that filtered the daylight into a gentle, subaqueous glow of soft green. Stepping beneath this canopy was like entering a different realm entirely. The temperature dropped by several degrees, a pleasant coolness against the skin, and the air became still, holding its breath in a state of perpetual calm. The silence here was profound, a living presence that seemed to absorb all thought and worry. It was here that the path vanished completely, dissolving into the landscape that was the grove's most wondrous feature. As far as the eye could see, the ground was a single, unbroken, and undulating carpet of moss. It was a masterpiece of green, 1,000 different shades from the palest jade to the deepest emerald, all woven together in a seamless tapestry. It swelled over the gentle mounds of the earth and dipped into shallow hollows, covering everything, even the mighty exposed roots of the Heartwood trees, in its soft, velvety embrace. There was no bare earth, no fallen leaves, only this endless, living blanket of green. Finian stood at the edge of this quiet sea, feeling a sense of wonder so pure it was like a child's. The sight was one of impossible peace, a world made entirely of soft surfaces and gentle curves. A deep, instinctual feeling of safety rose from the place, a reassurance that here, nothing could be sharp or sudden. The air smelled wonderful, a complex and soothing perfume of petrichor, that beautiful scent of rain on dry earth, even though no rain was falling. It was layered with the fragrance of wet bark and the fresh, vibrant scent of the moss itself, an aroma that spoke of life, stillness, and deep, quiet history. Taking a tentative step forward, Finian placed a boot onto the moss. It yielded like the finest cushion, springing back softly as they lifted their foot. It was like walking on a cloud, a sensation both strange and wonderfully pleasant. The moss hushed their every movement, encouraging a slow and mindful pace. Finian moved deeper into the grove, feeling the profound quiet seep into their very bones, loosening the knots of tension they had carried for so long in their shoulders and back. Their own breathing began to slow, deepening to match the serene rhythm of the place. There was life here, but it was quiet life. A fat, furry caterpillar, the color of bright lime, moved with painstaking slowness along the edge of a fern frond. A single pearlescent mushroom pushed its smooth white head up through the moss, a silent and patient emergence. There were no birds calling, no squirrels chattering in the high branches. The grove seemed to exist in a state of deep, meditative contemplation, and it invited all who entered to join it in this gentle state of being. Looking up, Finian could just make out the intricate lattice of the canopy high above. The soft green light that filtered through it was constant and unchanging, giving the grove a timeless quality. It could be morning or afternoon. It was impossible to tell. Time itself seemed to have a different texture here, slower and more fluid, measured not in hours and minutes, but in the slow unfurling of a fern or the almost imperceptible growth of the moss. Finian found their gaze drawn to the moss itself, to the incredible detail of its construction. It was not one plant, but millions, perhaps billions, of tiny individual stems and leaves, all working together to form this single, unified whole. It grew in beautiful fractal patterns, like miniature forests within the larger one. The sight was mesmerizing, a quiet testament to the beauty that could be achieved through slow, patient, and cooperative growth. It was a world in miniature, perfect and complete, and to be in its presence was to feel a deep sense of peace and rightness. Chapter 2. The Heartwood Seat and the First Memory. Wandering without aim or urgency, Finian moved through the green-lit silence of the grove. The air remained cool and still, a gentle weight on the skin that was both calming and grounding. The profound quiet was a comfort, a soft blanket that wrapped around the mind and allowed it to finally rest. After a time, Finian came upon one of the truly ancient heartwood trees, a specimen so vast that its base was a landscape in itself. Its mighty roots, thick as a person's body, rose from the ground in great, smooth arches before plunging back into the earth, and every inch of them was swathed in the same thick emerald moss. Between two of these immense roots, a perfect hollow had been formed, a natural seat that seemed to have been waiting just for them. The moss here was particularly lush and deep, creating a soft, cushioned alcove that looked incredibly inviting. It seemed the most natural thing in the world to settle into this space, to lean back against the cool, solid curve of the great root behind them. Finian did so with a soft sigh of contentment, the moss compressing gently beneath them, offering a perfect, supportive embrace. The feeling was one of being held, of being completely safe within the heart of this ancient, peaceful place. For a long while, Finian simply sat, breathing in the clean, earthy air and observing the play of soft green light around them. The world was reduced to this single, serene moment. There was nothing to do, nowhere to be, no task to complete. There was only the feeling of the soft moss, the sight of the endless green, and the sound of the deep, abiding silence. It was a profound and restorative luxury, this state of simple being. A feeling of deep gratitude welled up within them, a quiet thankfulness for having found their way to such a sanctuary. With a gentle, idle curiosity, Finian reached out and placed their open palm flat against the cool, plush surface of the moss that covered the root beside them. The texture was wonderful, a combination of damp coolness and velvety softness. It felt alive beneath their touch, a vibrant, living thing. They closed their eyes, the better to focus on the simple, tactile sensation. And then, something remarkable began to happen. It began not as a thought or an image, but as a sound that bloomed from nowhere, right within their own mind. From the moss itself, or so it seemed, a soft hushing sound exhaled, like a long, slow sigh of release. At the same moment, the gentle patter of 1,000 tiny raindrops began to fill Finian's hearing. It was not a memory from their own past, but something fresh, immediate, and incredibly real. It was the sound of a slow, persistent drizzle falling upon the dense canopy of leaves high above, a soft and steady drumming that was immensely soothing. The sound was all-enveloping, a gentle percussion that seemed to wash away everything else. Then came the scent. A wave of pure, clean petrichor washed over them, the rich, unmistakable perfume of the earth receiving a gentle rain. It was a fragrance that felt both refreshing and deeply comforting, a smell that spoke of renewal and quiet nourishment. It was so vivid that Finian could almost taste the clean, fresh air that accompanies such a shower. And with the scent came a feeling, a subtle shift in the air against their skin, the sensation of a cool, damp mist that was refreshing without being cold. It was a complete and total sensory immersion. Finian was sitting in the dry, still grove, yet they were simultaneously experiencing, with perfect clarity, a quiet, drizzly afternoon from some time long past. It was the moss. The moss was remembering the rain, and it was sharing that memory with them. There was no story, no event, just the simple, beautiful, and profoundly peaceful experience of the rain itself. It was a memory of pure being, of a moment of quiet, natural process. Finian kept their hand resting on the moss, completely captivated. They felt their whole body relaxing into the memory, their muscles softening, their breath deepening to match the slow, steady rhythm of the remembered drizzle. The experience was a balm to the soul, a gentle and persistent washing away of all the noise and haste of the outside world. It was a magic far deeper and quieter than any Finian had ever imagined, a magic that grew from the earth itself, from the simple, patient act of remembering. Chapter 3. A Symphony of Gentle Showers. The memory of the drizzle faded as gently as it had arrived, the pattering sound receding until only the deep silence of the grove remained. The vivid scent of petrichor softened, lingering in the air like a pleasant after-image. A soft emerald light pulsed once in the moss, beneath Finian's hand, a quiet, beautiful acknowledgement of the moment that had been shared. Finian opened their eyes, feeling a profound sense of wonder, and a calm that felt as deep and ancient as the heartwood trees around them. The moss had a library of memories, and it had just shared the first volume. Now, with a gentle understanding, Finian began to explore this remarkable gift. They shifted their position slightly, moving their hand to a new patch of the deep green carpet. They did not press or demand, but simply rested their palm with a light, receptive touch, an open and quiet invitation. Once again, that soft, hushing exhalation came from the moss, and a new sensory world began to unfold. This time there was no sound of falling drops, only a profound, damp stillness, and the feeling of immense, cool humidity. This was the memory of a morning mist. In Finian's mind, a soft gray light bloomed, and the world became a shimmering, silent place. They could feel the fine, cool droplets of the mist on their skin, a delicate and refreshing sensation. They could smell the intense, concentrated fragrance of wet leaves and bark, a scent that was pure and invigorating. Through this shared memory, Finian could perceive the world as the moss had, beaded with 1 billion tiny jewels of moisture. Every fern frond, every spider's web, every single tiny leaf of moss was outlined in perfect silvery droplets. It was a memory of breathtaking silent beauty, a world held in a state of suspended animation. When the vision of the mist receded, leaving behind its lingering coolness, Finian took a deep, cleansing breath. The peace it imparted was different from the drizzles, quieter and more crystalline. After a few moments of quiet contemplation, they sought another memory. This time, they laid their palm flat on the moss, covering the main floor of the grove. The hushing sound came again, a familiar and welcome friend, and with it, a completely new kind of rain. This memory was of a warm, heavy summer shower. The sound was deeper, a soft and resonant drumming on the high canopy, a sound so steady and constant it was like a lullaby. The air that enveloped Finian was warm and thick with moisture, a comforting heavy blanket. They could feel the remembered sensation of large, warm drops of rain soaking into the moss, a feeling of deep, satisfying quenching. It was a joyful rain, a memory filled with the feeling of life and abundance. The scent was of warm earth and sweet green growing things, a fragrance of pure vitality. Finian spent what felt like a long, blissful afternoon this way, moving from one gentle memory to another. Each patch of moss seemed to hold a different story, a different flavor of rain. There was a brief, light shower that had passed on a windy day, the sound of the rain accompanied by the soft rush and sigh of the leaves tossing high above. There was the memory of a long, slow melt after a rare frost, the sound a constant, gentle dripping as the ice released its hold on the branches, a melody of slow, patient transformation. It was a symphony of gentle showers, a collection of the world's quietest and most beautiful moments. Through it all, Finian's own internal world grew quieter and more spacious. The moss's memories were so complete, so all-encompassing, that there was no room for stray thoughts or lingering worries. The mind simply became a vessel for the experience of the rain. It was a form of meditation that required no effort, no discipline, only a gentle willingness to receive. The simple, repetitive, and deeply natural act of the rain falling, in all its varied forms, was a profoundly cleansing experience. The soft green light of the grove seemed to hold steady, unchanging. Time was a river flowing around this peaceful island. Finian felt a connection to the place that went beyond mere appreciation. They were becoming a part of its long, slow story, a quiet witness to the countless gentle rains the moss had so faithfully remembered. The grove was not just a place of shelter from the world. It was a place of deep, sensory nourishment, feeding the spirit with its endless library of peaceful moments. A feeling of deep contentment settled over Finian, as soft and as thorough as the moss that surrounded them. They felt as if they were sinking into the peace of the grove, becoming one with its slow, green, and patient existence. The symphony of the rain played on, each note a drop of pure tranquility, washing over them again and again, leaving them cleaner and calmer with every gentle fall. Chapter 4. The Stillness Between the Drops. As Finian continued their quiet communion with the grove, their focus began to shift. They had become attuned not just to the memories of the rain itself, but to the exquisitely peaceful moments that lay suspended within and around them. They discovered that the moss, remembered not only the falling of the water, but the profound, resonant stillness that came just before a shower began, and the deep, clean quiet that settled over the world in its wake. It was in these quiet interludes that an even deeper sense of calm could be found. With a gentle touch, Finian initiated a new memory. This one began not with sound, but with a feeling of hushed anticipation. The air in this remembered moment was heavy and still, charged with a cool humidity. The world seemed to be holding its breath. There was no wind, not even the whisper of a breeze. Finian could perceive the deep, profound silence of the grove as it waited. It was a calm and patient waiting, free of any tension, a simple, quiet awareness that the rain was coming. This moment of pure stillness was a meditation in itself, a perfect, uncluttered peace. Then, from that silence, the memory unfolded into the sound of the first, single fat drop of rain landing on a broad heartwood leaf with a soft, resonant plop. It was followed by another, and then another, a slow, deliberate patter that gradually built into a steady, gentle shower. Finian let the familiar, soothing sound wash over them, but now their awareness was different. They were listening for the spaces, the tiny fractional pauses between the drops, the quiet canvas upon which the sound of the rain was painted. Even more beautiful were the memories of the moments just after the rain had ceased. Finian found one of these and let it envelop them completely. The drumming on the canopy had stopped, and a new soundscape emerged. It was the sound of a world dripping, a slow, melodic, and completely random percussion of water droplets falling from the high leaves, some landing with a soft tap on other leaves, others falling the full distance to the moss with a quiet, satisfying soak. Each drop was a singular, perfect event in the vast, overarching silence. The air in these after-rain memories was the cleanest and freshest of all. It was scrubbed clean of all dust, vibrant and alive, and carried the most intense and beautiful smells of the grove. The scent of the wet heartwood bark was a deep, woody perfume, and the fragrance of the damp earth and moss was richer than ever. Finian took a deep, slow breath within the memory, feeling the clean, cool air fill their lungs, a sensation that felt profoundly cleansing and restorative. They could almost see the world glistening, every surface dark with moisture and shimmering in the soft green light. These moments of stillness became Finian's favorite resting places. They would seek out a memory and simply remain in its quiet aftermath, listening to the slow dripping, breathing the clean air. Their own thoughts, which had already become quiet, now seemed to cease altogether. The slow, patient dripping became the only thought, the only point of focus. It was a state of pure, simple presence. There was no past to dwell on, no future to anticipate, only the beautiful, quiet dripping now. This quiet focus had a profound effect on Finian's body. They felt a deep, pleasant heaviness settle into their limbs, the kind of relaxation that comes from letting go of all effort. The gentle rhythm of the dripping water seemed to travel through their body, loosening any remaining knots of tension. It was as if their own inner world was mirroring the outer world of the memory, washed clean and left in a state of peaceful, dripping stillness. The faint emerald glow of the moss after each shared memory seemed to last a little longer now, as if the moss itself were enjoying these moments of shared quietude. The grove felt less like a place Finian was visiting, and more like a gentle consciousness they were in conversation with. The language of this conversation was not words, but the shared experience of rain and silence, of falling water, and the profound peace that followed. Finian realized that true tranquility was not just about experiencing pleasant sensations, but about appreciating the quiet spaces in between. It was about finding the beauty in the pause, the rest, the gentle cessation of activity. The grove, with its vast library of rain, was the perfect teacher. It showed them that after every shower, however brief or heavy, there comes a time of deep, restorative quiet, a time for the world to simply breathe and be still. Chapter 5. Carrying the Scent of Rain. As the soft, unchanging green light within the grove began to feel a little dimmer, a little softer around the edges, Finian knew that twilight was beginning to fall in the world outside. A feeling of complete and utter restoration had settled deep within them, a quiet, humming contentment that felt as much a part of them now as their own heartbeat. The symphony of the rain and the deep meditation of its silence had washed them clean, leaving a sense of profound inner stillness. It was time, they felt, to carry this peace back out into the world. Rising from the Heartwood seat, Finian felt light and wonderfully grounded all at once. Every movement was slow and deliberate, imbued with the unhurried grace of the grove itself. They began a slow walk towards the edge of the mossy sea, their bare feet, for they had shed their boots hours ago, making no sound on the soft, cool carpet. As they walked, a soft green mist began to rise from the moss, the first release of the evening's glimmer spores. They drifted in lazy, silent currents, each one a tiny, floating emerald star, transforming the grove into a magical, dreamlike space. Near the place where the moss gave way to the earthy path, Finian noticed something resting at the base of a tree. It was a piece of heartwood bark that had fallen long ago. It was about the size of their hand, its surface worn smooth over the years, its dark wood looking almost like polished river stone. But what made it special was that a perfect thick patch of the mnemosyne moss had grown over it, creating a miniature, portable piece of the grove's living floor. It seemed like a gift, a farewell present from this quiet, ancient place. Finian knelt and gently, carefully lifted the piece of bark. The moss, deeply rooted to its wooden home, came with it without protest. It felt wonderful in their hands, the wood smooth and cool on one side, the moss plush, damp, and vibrant on the other. Holding it felt like holding a piece of living history, a tangible piece of the peace they had found here. As their fingers pressed gently into the moss, it offered one final fleeting memory, the feeling of a single, cool drop of dew settling upon its surface in the deep quiet just before dawn. With a heart full of a quiet, gentle gratitude that needed no words, Finian gave a slow, respectful nod to the heart of the grove. They turned and stepped from the endless carpet of green onto the soft earth of the path. Looking back, they saw the glimmer spores now filling the air in a thick, silent, swirling river of light, a last beautiful image of the grove's gentle magic. Then, with the piece of mossy bark held carefully in both hands, they walked the path that led back to the outer world. Later, settled in a quiet place far from the grove, Finian prepared for a night of deep, untroubled rest. The world outside their window was dark and silent. They placed the piece of heartwood bark on the small table beside their bed. In the dim light of a single candle, the patch of moss seemed to glow with its own faint emerald light, and it released the faintest scent of damp earth and clear rain into the small room. It was a constant, gentle reminder of the tranquility of the grove. Lying in their soft bed, nestled under a warm, heavy blanket, Finian could feel the peace of the grove still residing within them. Their body felt wonderfully relaxed, their mind spacious and calm. When they closed their eyes, they did not need to reach for memories of rain. The feeling of that deep quiet was already there. It was in the slow, even rhythm of their breathing, in the stillness of their thoughts, and in the profound sense of contentment that filled them. With one last look at the gentle green glow of the moss on their nightstand, Finian felt their consciousness begin to soften and drift. They carried the feeling of the grove, the memory of its gentle rains and its deep, abiding stillness, with them as they floated effortlessly towards the welcoming shores of sleep. Their dreams that night were filled with the soft, pattering sound of 1,000 gentle showers and the deep, restorative quiet that always, always follows the rain.